Hey, hey, good evening, y'all. Welcome back to The Women Are Out of Control. This has been a little bit of a break between our last session and this conversation, but I hope that y'all are doing well, that you are finding your way, and that you are finding some ease and some peace in all that is going on in the world right now, that you are tapping into your creativity and into your power to create the life that you desire for yourself. So, today's conversation um, is inspired by, I want to say, it's not inspired by Meg the Stallion and Clay, but seeing that go down the way that it did and all of the social discourse around it, I said, oh, I have to have this conversation. I have to have this conversation around grieving the good girl, the good woman, the version of ourselves that we are told to be if we want care and connection in the world, if we want to have a blessed and peaceful life, right? So, seeing a very public example of a woman shift herself, right? We see the conversations around Meg Thee Stallion and women like her, that if you would just put some clothes on, if you would just be more wife like, if you would just cook and clean, if you would just fill in the blank, then you will have, I like to say, care and connection, because whether that's a husband, whether that's family acceptance, whether that is progress in your career, these are the things that we're promised if we are good enough. And then we got to see that good does not guarantee you anything. Good don't guarantee you a damn thing. And we are seeing collectively as women this same pattern be revealed to us. The illusion that goodness guarantees care and connection is being dissolved for women collectively right now. And we have to ask ourselves, why is this happening right now? What spiritually are we being opened up to? What is being revealed to us? Why is this happening? But beyond why it's happening is allowing yourself to have the human experience of what it really feels like to learn that a promise has been broken. What does it really feel like to realize that you've been building up an identity, a persona, a performance under the belief that there was a promise attached to it, and then realizing that there is none? And allowing yourself to really grieve that so that you can truly move forward. A lot of times we're not um, moving forward in life because we are not allowing ourselves to properly grieve what we believed would be the case, the life we believed we would have. I was talking to my son today. I brought him to his first orientation, and he was asking about college, and I told him that I dropped out of college, and he was like, why did you do that? And I said, I really should not have done that, but I did at the time. um, and he was asking me why I made that decision, and I told him that when I was in college, which was, I graduated high school in 2006, so when I was in college, the we were getting a first hand look for the first time at college graduates who were promised that if you go to college and you get your degree and you get a degree in the right field, then when you leave school, there will be jobs for you and you'll be able to live out the American dream. And my uh, class of millennials was one of the first to see an entire generation, not everybody, but a large group of people who had followed that plan and it didn't pan out. And the promise was not real at the end of it. And I was telling him that, when those social contracts are broken, people start making decisions that are hasty or rash because they no longer have trust in the system. And one of the things that helped me to move forward in my career and in my life was allowing myself to grieve the life that I thought I would have if I got all A's in school and I went to college and I did the things, because that reality no longer existed. However, if I had stayed there holding on to what I was told should be true, I would not have been able to create what became true for me. And many times, the same thing is happening in our relationships and in how we show up in the world as quote unquote good girls or good women, where you're positioning yourself to be cared for and connected to someone who does not know or appreciate or value the real you because you are showing up with a mask on. So sometimes what ends up happening is not Clay and Meg's situation. What may end up happening is you do get the husband and you do get the family and you do get the white picket fence and you do get all of the things that were promised, and you realize that it is a prison. You realize that because you followed that promise, you ended up in a prison. And it may not be the kind of prison where you hate your life, but it's not truly in integrity with who you are. So what you will likely see if Meg ends up in another relationship or however things end up, what she is having to go through right now and grieving all of the things that she was told, if you take this path, you will get this result, is that she'll have to peel away the version of her who believed that, the version of her who believed that she needed that, the version of her who went against her own knowing, her own intuition, her own self in search of something outside of herself. And because she's peeled all of those layers away, when she peels all of those layers away, you then end up attracting someone who is truly connected and aligned with your authentic self, who you really are, not someone who is attracted to the performance that you're putting on. So as I was thinking about this, I thought about, like, when do we start performing goodness as women? When do we start performing goodness even as girls? And it starts so early. Because if you think about it, in childhood, goodness is she doesn't cry. She doesn't act up. She doesn't throw tantrums. She doesn't make too much noise. She knows how to sit still. And when we really get down to the bottom of that, what we're learning in allowing others, and as a child, you have less choice in the matter, or less understanding of your choice in the matter. What we're allowing and what we're experiencing and being programmed with in that is being good means I ignore my needs. Being good means I do not inconvenience others with my wants or needs. Being good means that I shrink myself to make other people comfortable. Being good means that my emotional expression is just too much. And so when we're learning that as small children, when we're learning stop crying, keep still, don't express your emotions. Yes, there is a time and a place for that, but by and large, most children, especially children in Black communities and cultural communities, there's nowhere to express that. You always gotta keep it cool, keep it calm, or deal with the disconnection that comes from that. Deal with the rejection that comes from that, from you expressing yourself or you being too much for the family or the teachers or whoever. Personally, that was a part of my experience. I've always been too much for the people, but the thing that I appreciate about myself is that I have also always been willing to push back. I have always been willing to push back against whatever it is. You're gonna have to prove your authority to me, because something in me knew coming here that a part of the program is allowing people to tell you that you are not good enough. And sometimes I believed it, for sure. I'm still working through the times that I have believed that and internalized being too much, being thinking you're too good, and all of these other things. And that's such a, even bringing that up is so interesting, because as women, many times we have to navigate the space when we buy into the good program, being a good girl, being a good woman. We often also have to navigate not being too good. And when we let that good persona go, you no longer have to worry about any of that. Like, if I'm too good, too bad. If I'm too much, too bad. But before we can truly let it go, a lot of times we do have to give ourselves the space to grieve it, to go through the stages of grief for real, and allow yourself to feel the shock of realizing that everything that you believed you had to be was not real. The time that you spent in a persona that was not you, the time that you spent vying for or auditioning, as Life Coach Shan says, auditioning. We don't start auditioning just with men. We start auditioning when we're auditioning for our parents, when we're auditioning for our teachers, so that by the time we're going towards relationships with the opposite gender, whether that's men or women, we are used to auditioning. We think that that's the norm. We think that putting your best face forward in these relationships is the norm. And something that I've always taught women in feminine success, one of the best things to do early on in a relationship is to stress test the situation. Say no a couple times and see how that goes. Express a need a couple times and see how that goes. Because it's not the mask of I have no needs, I'm strong and independent, I don't have any problems, I'm nice, I cook, I clean, and all of this. That is not what will sustain your relationship long term. I have been with my husband for 15 years, and me cooking and cleaning is not what has kept us together. He's actually cooking dinner for the kids right now. That's not what has kept us together, even though our relationship started in, to me, a very traditional dynamic, because that's what I was raised to desire. That has not sustained us. What has sustained us is our ability to, our capacity to experience life together, to go through stressful situations, go through beautiful, abundant situations, and have the capacity to hold those things. And when we don't, the ability to be vulnerable, to take off that mask of I'm good and I'm strong and I'm all of these things, and be real and be authentic and be true and be human with each other. That's what has actually cultivated the care and connection that we have now, where It doesn't matter what happens. We're going to be here. We're going to be in each other's world, in each other's lives. The connection is strong. It does not come from, you hear in the song, sunny days, everybody loves them. But can you stand the rain? And many times, recognizing whether and testing whether a relationship can stand the rain starts with things that are very simple. Can I tell you no? Can I not be your ideal whatever and this connection still sustain? Can I, and I'm not saying to do these things on purpose, but if I have an off day, if I'm, we know, well, I don't know about y'all ladies, but I know I definitely go through my cycle every month, and I'm not always the nicest. I'm not always the nicest. But can you give me my space and not make it about you? Can you? But what we've been taught in our good girl programming is you're supposed to diminish yourself. You're supposed to fix your attitude. You're supposed to, well, no matter what your hormones are doing in your body, you're supposed to be the one who accommodates everyone else. And we are now moving into a time where the collective feminine can no longer hold the weight of the mask that we have been wearing because it's not real and there's no reward. And the outcome, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And at the end of the day, even if it were worth the squeeze, if you are wearing a mask, there comes a point where it becomes too heavy to hold. And it is time for the illusion to fall away, where you have to look at what is underneath. And sometimes that comes with grief. Sometimes that comes with being upset with the family members that taught you certain things, being upset with the church that taught you certain things. That comes with not only experiencing that shock, that initial